Who's actually going to get the most out of a 65-inch OLED TV, and who might be better off spending that money elsewhere? If you're trying to decide whether the LG C2 is the right upgrade for your living room, you probably have a mix of excitement and hesitation, especially when the price tag feels like a serious commitment. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. Let's walk through the everyday scenarios that matter, the hidden trade-offs you might not see in a spec sheet, and whether the price really matches the experience for a typical viewer. First off, the biggest draw for most buyers is the picture. OLED's ability to produce true black means that movies with a lot of darkness, think Blade Runner 2049 or The Witch, look dramatically richer than anything you get on a traditional LED panel. The LG C2's 9th generation AI processor 4K constantly analyzes the scene and adjusts color, contrast, and sharpness on the fly. In practice, that translates to a picture that feels almost alive when you're watching a nature documentary. The greens are vivid but not oversaturated, and the sky gradients flow smoothly without banding. For a cinephile who treats weekends like mini film festivals, that level of fidelity is a real pleasure. But picture isn't the whole story. If you're a gamer, you'll notice the LG Game Optimizer mode right away. The TV supports NVIDIA GSYNC, AMD FreeSync Premium, and a variable refresh rate that can swing from 48 Hz up to 120 Hz without stutter. What that means in a living room setup is you can plug in a next-gen console or a high-end PC and expect fluid motion even in fast-paced shooters. The input lag is low enough that competitive players have reported an advantage over older OLEDs that lagged a few milliseconds behind. On a casual level, the TV also preserves the original cinematic intent of games that are designed for 60 frames per second, so you don't get the soap opera effect that some processing modes try to force. Now, let's talk about the daily grind. Most households don't spend every evening watching HDR movies. You're more likely to be scrolling through YouTube, catching a sitcom, or using the TV as a smart hub. The LG C2's WebOS interface is smooth, and the Magic Remote's point-and-click design feels a bit like a laser pointer for the screen. You can launch Netflix, Disney+, or Amazon Prime with a single press, and the built-in Alexa lets you dim the lights or check the weather without leaving the couch. The AI processor also reduces noise in low-light scenes, which is helpful when you're watching a late-night drama on a dim lamp. In short, the TV stays unobtrusive when you just want background noise. Where the C2 starts to feel like a compromise is in the hardware that isn't immediately obvious. The panel itself is thin enough that you'll almost need a wall mount to keep it from wobbling on a stand. The Visa pattern is 300,200 mm, which means you'll have to buy a separate mount if you want that gallery look the marketing pushes. That adds a modest extra cost and a bit of installation effort, especially if you're not comfortable with drilling into plaster. Also, while the TV is bright enough for most dim rooms, it can struggle in very sunny spaces. If your main viewing area has large windows and you rarely dim the curtains, the OLED's peak brightness may feel a little underwhelming compared to a high-end LED that pushes 1000 nits. That's not a deal-breaker for most, but it's something to keep in mind. Another practical consideration is the sound. The C2 ships with a fairly standard 2-channel speaker array, which is fine for dialogue-heavy content but can feel thin during action sequences or when you're trying to enjoy a surround sound soundtrack. Many reviewers recommend adding a soundbar or a small home theater system to get the full impact. If you're planning to use the TV as a primary media hub in a room where you don't want extra speakers cluttering the space, you might end up spending more on audio than you initially anticipated. So, who should press add to cart? If you're a movie buff who values deep blacks and accurate color, a gamer who wants low input lag and adaptive sync, or a design-conscious homeowner who wants a sleek piece that can double as wall art, the C2 hits the sweet spot. The combination of OLED picture quality, robust gaming features, and a responsive smart platform makes it a versatile centerpiece for a dedicated entertainment space. The price is still premium, but you're paying for technology that still feels a step ahead of most 2023 panels. Who should walk away? If you live in a bright living room with no way to control ambient light, Or if you're mainly watching cable TV and occasional streaming on a tight budget, a high-quality LED or a smaller OLED might give you enough performance without the extra cost of a wall mount, sound upgrade, and the higher price tag. Also, if you're not interested in the gaming side or don't plan to use the TV as a primary